What is going on, everybody? Welcome into my Week 8 NFL Power Rankings. Was a bit of a slower slate of games, but still some big surprises and a lot of movement on the list here this week. So before we get started, please do hit that like button down below. Really helps me out, helps support my channel. Also make sure you subscribe so you don't miss any NFL content as we continue to go through the season here, including Wednesday's Fully Inflated Football podcast, where we will talk about any rankings changes necessary after the Monday Night Football game, as well as doing some trade deadline fun, talking about some hypothetical trades. So make sure you subscribe. Lots of great NFL content on the way, and let's get into the power rankings now. Starting at the bottom, it's going to be a new team this week, the New York Jets, getting blown out by the New England Patriots. If there's anything sure in this life, it is that Bill Belichick will own the New York Jets, and they add injury to insult this week as Zach Wilson messes up his knee. It doesn't sound like a season-ending type of deal, but as of right now, it does sound like that's going to cost him some games at least. And as long as Mike White is their quarterback, I do think the Jets are the worst team in the NFL. And that is saying a lot because the Houston Texans are very deserving of the bottom spot, but they are going to jump up a spot because of the Zach Wilson injury. You know, we're running out of good things to say about the Houston Texans here. We know where this thing is headed, and it is towards a total rebuild. And it feels like a demotion to the SEC might result in more competitive football games at this point. But, you know, they're not last this week at least. And then the Detroit Lions are going to jump up as well thanks to the Zach Wilson injury. You know, this team can try as hard as they want, and they certainly did pull out all the stops this week. Fake punts, onside kicks, you name it, just was not enough. The talent gap is just so wide, and that is going to round out the bottom tier in the NFL, in my opinion. I do think these three teams would and should be heavy underdogs against anybody else in the league outside of this tier. Then a tier gap up to the Miami Dolphins, now 1-6. Eagles fans rejoice as they have their first round pick. They fought this week and hung in there. I actually picked the Dolphins to win this one, and they almost did. Some ups and downs for Tua, some nice drives to kind of get them back in this game, but his interceptions really hurt them as well. And the defense just continuing to struggle, and if they're not forcing turnovers, what is it that this team does particularly well? And the answer is not that much. So Dolphins continue to disappoint this season, and a lot of tough decisions ahead for them, and another tough loss to the Falcons this week. The Philadelphia Eagles are going to drop down 4 as well. This game script seems to be what we can expect from the Eagles at this point, back-to-back weeks where they get down early, Jalen Hurts really unable to move the ball, and then, you know, garbage time, bring it back a little closer in the end. But man, this defense isn't anything special, and with Jalen Hurts playing the way he's playing, one of the worst quarterbacks in the NFL starting right now, if not the worst, I think a drop definitely in order for the Eagles here. Jags are going to stay put on the bye week this week, coming off their first win. And then the Carolina Panthers dropping down 8 spots. What a ride it has been for the Panthers. They start off 3-0, and then I was accused of being too low on this team. A little hesitant there. And then they started losing some games, and I was a little bit hesitant to drop them because I did like some of the stuff they showed early on. And after all of that, they are right back exactly where they started for me, number 26 in the power rankings. The downside on top of all of this, of course, they've lost 4 in a row, which really sucks. But Sam Darnold, who looked like maybe was going to be turning things around after the first 3 weeks, couldn't be heading in any more of an opposite direction right now, getting benched for PJ Walker, and all of a sudden there's a quarterback controversy for the Panthers. They're also entertaining trading for Deshaun Watson. So obviously if you don't have a good quarterback, you're not going to win games, and that showed this week. They couldn't even go on the road and beat the Giants. Just pathetic offensive performance. They got to fix their offensive line and start, you know, not having so many drops as well, but obviously quarterback a big deal. Then the Giants at number 25, so they'll climb up 4 spots. You know, we'll give them a little bit of credit here. I do personally think this was much more about the Panthers just playing very terrible on the offensive side of the ball, but you do have to give the Giants credit defensively, really playing sturdy this week, and then offensively doing enough to walk out with a win against the Panthers as underdogs, despite all of the injuries on the offensive side of the ball. So they pick up a win, and we'll see if they can build off of it. I'm not expecting it, but we'll find out. And then the Washington football team, going to come in at 24. It's kind of more of the same this week. The coverage unit continues to really struggle. The pass rush had some really good moments this week as well, though. And Taylor Heineke, some ups and downs. This team has been highly consistently inconsistent, if that makes sense. Climbing up 2 spots here because of what we've seen from the Panthers and the Eagles being less impressive. And they've had a really hard schedule. I think the wins will start coming, but obviously not an impressive way to climb up 2 spots. Same with the Seahawks, moving up 2 spots just kind of by default here. They play on Monday Night Football, and if any changes are necessary, I'll be talking about that on the podcast on Wednesday. Then the Chicago Bears at number 22. They got blown out by the Bucs. They were heavy underdogs. I didn't expect them to beat them, but it was yet again just really tragic performance on the offensive side of the ball all around. The defense, too much pressure on those guys, and a secondary that just couldn't match up with Mike Evans and those weapons, Chris Godwin. So, they lose. There's no one else that's really impressed enough to truly jump above them other than one team. But again, the Panthers are dropping down below them. So the Bears are staying put, and the Broncos are staying put for the exact same reason. We said last week at this 21 spot that I think this is who the Broncos are. They're a decent football team, but just no explosiveness on the offensive side of the ball, and a defense that has not held up their end of the bargain. This is a super talented defense, but man, they're playing like, I don't know, an average to below average defense. I know they gave up only 17 points this week on the road to Cleveland, but that was against Case Keenum, and it was really giving up a lot of chunk runs and screens and stuff that you would expect a well-coached, athletic, tough, smart defense to keep under wraps. And that's a game that the Broncos needed to win and could have won, and they weren't able to get the job done. And that also leans on Teddy Bridgewater being their quarterback and the offense just not having an identity, or really just the cohesiveness and talent to come together. Call it coaching and talent, whatever it is. The Broncos are just bleh. And then the Atlanta Falcons going up 3 spots to round out the second tier of, I guess, just competitively bad teams here. They scrape away a win against the Miami Dolphins, and it was Kyle Pitts. Jamar Chase is going off, but you got to acknowledge what Kyle Pitts is doing as an offensive rookie right now, too. He has been a serious reason the Falcons have won back-to-back games. Beautiful catch, beating, I think it was Xavier Howard, just stacking him on the outside, one-on-one to set up a game-winning field goal for the Falcons. Goes over 100 yards for the second week in a row. I mean, getting that man going has opened up this offense in all of the ways that we hoped it would for the Falcons when they spent that 4th overall pick. Defensively, they've played the Jets and the Dolphins. I'm not looking too far into that. They did give up 28 points, but at least offensively, Matt Ryan has found some trust with Kyle Pitts, and with him and Ridley and Matt Ryan and Arthur Smith calling plays and Cordarrelle Patterson, they can move the ball. And that's a good way to compete and win some games in the NFL. But that is going to round out this tier, because I just don't see anybody in this group making the playoffs. This next tier, I think, are teams that are at least in the mix for the playoffs, but still pretty much long shots at this point. But that's going to be the Pittsburgh Steelers at 19 on the bye this week, and then the Patriots at 18, +2 after dominating the New York Jets. This offense has quietly been pretty dang good with Mac Jones, putting up some points the last couple weeks against good defenses, and the defense, playing well against the Jets. It is what it is, but I do trust a balanced, talented Patriots defense coached by Bill Belichick to at least be solid. So average offense, average defense, that puts you out right around 18. Then we got the San Francisco 49ers dropping down a spot. They just can't buy a win. They're still very competitive. Debo, that's pretty much it offensively. Defensively, they are well coached. I do believe that. They're tough. They have some talent, Bosa and Warner. But honestly, the difference between the Niners and the Patriots right now is pretty minuscule. So then we have the Indianapolis Colts. They have certainly got things rolling, and a couple more wins here could lead to a tier jump up for the Colts, as they've gone from, really anemic, uninteresting start with a ton of injuries to, okay, Wentz is getting healthier. He's using his legs more, pushing the ball downfield more. Quentin Nelson back in the lineup. This defense playing outstanding football right now. You know, I ranked this team 11th before the injury bugs really hit them, and I think they're creeping back up towards that mark, showing off yet again how well coached and how well balanced this roster is. I still wish their pass rush was better. I still wish their corners were better, and I still wish they had more explosiveness with these receivers, but they do a lot of really good things as well. So +1 for the Colts, but that is going to close off that tier and take us into our next tier of kind of playoff hopeful teams. And it's going to start with the Minnesota Vikings on bye this week. Unfortunately for Vikings fans, just getting passed up by some really impressive performances by a couple of other teams in this tier. But one of those teams is the Las Vegas Raiders, 2-0 since the Gruden firing, and the offense has not missed a beat, and the defense continues to get after it. So that's really what it comes down to. I was very hesitant about what this team was going to look like after John Gruden. I really liked the play calling from John Gruden, but honestly, with Olsen taking over, they have not missed a beat on that side of the ball, and they almost seem to be playing even faster and harder with even more of a chip on their shoulders. So the Raiders are a sneaky, dangerous team right now. They could come in, get a wild card spot, and they have a lot of talent, could play spoiler. Been super impressed by what we've seen from the Raiders so far this season. The Saints are going to drop down a spot. Again, playing on Monday Night Football, so nothing to say right now. Potentially could be some coming on the podcast on Wednesday, but the Bengals are the reason the Saints are dropping, as the Bengals beat the Ravens on the road, taking first place for now in the AFC North. Joe Burrow, baby. There's so many great quarterbacks in the NFL, but I took a lot of heat during the Jags game on Twitter when I said Joe Burrow is a top 10 quarterback in the NFL. And I think with Deshaun Watson out of the framework right now, I think he is playing like it. I don't know how many quarterbacks you can put on the Bengals and you get a 5-1 football team like we have here for the Bengals. I mean, he creates, he gets rid of the ball quick, which, you know, a lot of quarterbacks that hold on to the football behind this offensive line, that's a recipe for disaster. So he has this balance of getting rid of the ball quick, playing in structure with accuracy, on top of the ability to extend plays and do some phenomenal stuff. Joe Burrow continues to not get enough credit for what he does for this Bengals team. And man, it's not just him. Jamar Chase, Offensive Rookie of the Year. This defense as well. Man, how big has it been for them to get BJ Hill? You know, I'm going to spend a little more time on the Bengals because they deserve it. This was a remarkable offseason by the Bengals. They trade a garbage center to the Giants, stealing BJ Hill, who's been awesome up front. They get DJ Reader back, who missed most of last season. These linebackers that they've drafted have totally hit. I definitely did, and most people criticized the Bengals for letting Carl Lawson go and signing Trey Hendrickson, who was a bit of a one-year wonder, letting William Jackson go and signing Chidobe Awuzie, who just hadn't really worked out for a Cowboys defense that didn't have a lot of talent around a guy like Chidobe Awuzie. But both of those guys have been cheaper, better options. Unfortunately, Lawson got injured, but that was a part of the picture for Lawson, was his injury track record. So just a stunningly just perfect offseason for the Bengals. Yeah, their offensive line could still have been improved a little bit more, and maybe that's why they're not a top-tier team for me. I still would be worried about how they're going to look going up against better pass-rushing teams, because let's face it, the Ravens don't have a great pass rush. But still, the Bengals doing so many great things right now, spending a lot of time on the Bengals. Huge week for them, biggest win for that organization and for Joey Franchise in the NFL. Just in forever. So yeah, that's the Bengals. And then the Kansas City Chiefs. That was the most surprising outcome of the weekend for me. I've been kind of sitting here on these power rankings, you know, kind of pounding the table and saying, you know, people are sleeping on the Chiefs, that they've had just a lot of turnovers on offense that they'll clean up and some defensive injuries, but getting Chris Jones back, mixing up the linebacker rotation, taking Sorensen out at safety, doing a couple things to get better defensively. I really thought the Chiefs would come out, must-win game, reassert themselves as, you know, one of the top teams in the NFL against the Titans this weekend. And they were 5.5-point favorites. I fully expected them to do that. And I was wrong. I was straight up wrong. This team is straight up broken. The defense is just remarkably frustrating to watch. It's head-scratching how they don't do anything right. They don't rush the passer. They don't play tough up front in run defense. Their linebackers stink sideline to sideline. And their coverage unit, it feels like they're either getting flagged or beat most of the time. It's just brutal. And then offensively, even more frustrating. These turnovers, the offensive line that was supposed to be so fixed has just not been that way. And that's really it. There's no other way to put it but just say they're broken. Now they have so much talent. You got Mahomes, you got Reed, you got the best playmaking duo in the NFL. They have some pieces on defense, and I do believe in the coaching staff there. But at some point, it's like, is this team a Super Bowl contender? And I genuinely don't think so. This team has completely fallen apart, and they have a lot of proving to do at this point, as they've now been blown out by two of the legitimate AFC teams that they've faced. So then we have the Cleveland Browns at 10, just kind of surviving with all these injuries this week at home against Denver. I love to see kind of the coaching, the way Stefanski really put his foot down with a lot of creative ways that they were able to create explosive plays for this offense with Case Keenum in there, and some of those injuries with the running backs and such. So just a good team win, kind of reminding us of how well coached this team was last year, and how deep this team is, and that they can beat you in a lot of different ways. So a big win for them. They still got to get healthy before I put them back in the Super Bowl tier, and even then, when they do get healthy, they need to win some bigger games against better teams. But for the most part, I'm not worried about the Browns, but they are still pretty beat up. So that's their one knock at the moment. But then we are going to have a tier gap up. So I've said the top really 10 teams, top 9 teams are all like Super Bowl contenders. I do think we're getting a little bit more clarity as we move forward as far as our ability to discern different groups amidst the Super Bowl contenders. So I do still think the top 9 teams are teams I could see winning the Super Bowl, but perhaps this next tier are more long shot Super Bowl teams, whereas I think we can now point to actually 2 more groups above this group right here, and say those guys are very serious Super Bowl contenders. But anyway, the Tennessee Titans at number 9 can't really draw up a couple of bigger, more meaningful wins for them, dominating the Bills on the ground, pulling through, big primetime game, and then now blowing out the Kansas City Chiefs. And it's been a combination of the offense really working, Ryan Tannehill, getting A.J. Brown back healthy. It's clear like how much that means for this team. Obviously Derrick Henry, but to have a legitimate explosive aspect over the middle of the field where Tannehill is so comfortable, I think is can't be understated for why this offense is opened back up. And then defensively, they're getting the pass rush going. The coverage is starting to meld together a little bit. Christian Fulton stepping up this year. Jack Rabbit. You got Molden in the slot. Kevin Byard playing outstanding. Forced another turnover this week. I think that's 3 straight weeks in a row, getting back to him being in the conversation for the best safety in the NFL. So the secondary coming together a little bit. The pass rush working much more. And you're starting to see all of their, they had a big, busy offseason. You're starting to see it really come together now as their season's gone on. Then we have the Chargers, who are on a bye this week, but are going to jump up a spot with the Chiefs falling. But then the Baltimore Ravens at number 7. So this is kind of the nature of these power rankings. If you are new here, last week, Ravens fans were coming at me saying, how can they not be higher? They have beaten the Chiefs. They've picked up a big win last week and a blowout win against the Chargers, and I had them at 7. I said, that's great. I love what they're doing, but they still have some issues on this team, be it the pass rush or their consistency and really cohesiveness as an offense and kind of tendency, other than that Chargers game, to really just lean on Lamar and say, okay, Lamar, go carry the offense. I don't know how sustainable that is. And we saw that kind of fall apart this week. But like I said, this is the nature of these power rankings where you're not going to get these massive reactions or overreactions from me. I think this was a team that the Bengals were very capable of losing to based on my own perception of them, but I still really like them moving forward. I still think Lamar is playing great. I think this defense and a lot of these other pieces on offense have still shown some really good stuff. So I'm not worried about the Ravens. It's a tough loss, but they've had some really good wins lately too. So they're going to stay put at number 7. And then the Dallas Cowboys. Finally, Cowboys fans get an opportunity to jump up 2 spots here. The Chiefs continuing to falter. The Ravens losing. This is all I've really needed from the Cowboys. It's, I feel like I actually have been too low on the Cowboys, but they haven't had a true opportunity to jump up for me in these power rankings because ever since they beat the Chargers, they haven't really had any, signature wins, right? And everybody above them has just been rolling. So they just haven't really had this opportunity, but they are going to jump up here to number 6. I'm very close to putting them into our next tier. I want to see them beat another real playoff team before I do that. But for the most part, I mean, the Cowboys offense is one of the best in the NFL. Certainly the most complete, I would say, as far as run game, O-line, quarterback, receiver play, and play calling. But yeah, the Cowboys moving up 2 spots on the bye week this week. There you go, Cowboys fans. I don't know if that's enough for you to be satisfied or not, but we are going to have the Green Bay Packers at 5. Just continuing to roll, man. Showing yet again this week that this stigma that it's just Rodgers and just Adams, it's just so unfair to Matt LaFleur and the different players in the Packers that are stepping up. Rashawn Gary, just a monster game this week. Kenny Clark, Devondre Campbell, just another great game, forcing a fumble on the goal line this week. The secondary stepping up. This defense as a whole just playing very good football. And offensively, they do have a great run game. Yeah, they have Rodgers. Yeah, they have Adams. That makes everything better. I do think Rodgers played his best game this week as well, just from start to finish. So I think the Packers are kind of a sleeping giant right now, waiting to hopefully get some other superstars back. David Bakhtiari going to be coming into the lineup hopefully next week. And look out for that offensive line kind of making everybody better, getting David Bakhtiari back. But then the Buffalo Bills at number 4 on bye this week. No change there. Then the Los Angeles Rams staying put at number 3, taking care of business against Detroit. They ended up with a very convincing win at the end of it all after a rough start. They gave up, the opening drive touchdown, a big play, great play by DeAndre Swift. Detroit comes out, onside kick, fake punt, ends up getting a field goal. So down 10-0 early, but they end up winning by multiple scores at the end of it. Just so steady the Rams are. They got enough players to make plays on the defensive side of the ball, and they are just so stable offensively. You never get too high or too low from the Rams is how I would put it. So staying put for the Rams, taking care of business this week. Then we have a tier gap up for me. This is the first time we're separating the Cardinals and the Bucks as elite level Super Bowl contenders. And I wanted to do this to give the credit to the Cardinals for being in this top tier, because I'm not ready to put them over the Bucks. I'm just not ready to do that because Tom Brady's playing so well and the Bucks offense is a mega team. I've talked about this. It's just stupid how many different ways the Bucks can beat you. And defensively, I think people are way overreacting to a couple injuries in the secondary because they do have guys stepping up back there, and their front 7 is still phenomenal. Even without Levante David, they're just dominating up front. They're one of the best coached defenses in the league, and they play incredibly fast. Oh, and by the way, look what's happening on the other side of the ball on offense. So I wanted to do this to give credit to the Cardinals because I know the Cardinals are undefeated, and most people are going to have the Cardinals number 1. In reality, these two teams go to head to head. I think the Bucks win, or at least would be favored to win. But it would be, a 2 or 3 point spread. And the Cardinals are also incredibly balanced and complete. I do think Kyler is the MVP of the season, and the defense has played incredibly well this season. Though I'm not prepared to give them credit for what they did this week against the Texans, because everybody does that against the Texans offense. And that is going to be our Week 8 power rankings. Please do let me know in the comments down below what you think about the power rankings this week. Also, make sure you hit that like button to support my channel and subscribe. Turn on notifications so you don't miss any NFL content throughout the week and the rest of the season and beyond. So I appreciate you for watching. Do hope you enjoyed. And until next time, peace.